business is largely in the hands of a very unorganized sector. Distribution channels are really, I mean, although we claim to have about 30,000 outlets for Hindi language books, distribution is actually, it's a huge problem finding the right distribution channels for small publishers to reach these 30,000 outlets. And as a result of that, what happens is language publishers, and I'm speaking for Hindi, and I'm sure other languages as well, we tend to depend on institutional purchases. So which means that, you know, for a language like Hindi, which has 422 million speakers, and if we take about 75% literacy rate average, it would still work out to about 300 million readers. We end up publishing sometimes print runs of 500 copies each, which is a shame because, you know, if you're looking at the numbers, there are people hungry to read books, but we are unable to get these books out to those people. And I think that itself is one, I mean, this is something where we need some kind of, you know, we need fresh ideas, we need maybe an infusion of some models to come in to teach us how to take those books out to, or, you know, maybe just a kind of, for instance, you were mentioning earlier, Indu, about the independent publishers and how difficult it is for them to distribute, and that you have now formed a small combine where the independent publishers distribution is done through a little you know, a group of, so something like that, where we are unable to, you know, form that. Although there are many trade organizations, there are many people who are sitting and putting their heads together on this, there is still this problem, and I think there is also a bit of inertia, because even I'm talking from a standpoint of a small publisher, but there are several really big publishers in Hindi who only do 500 a print run of 500 copies, which is something which really is disheartening. But having said that, I think, you know, over the last couple of years, with the introduction of the online, there is some change coming about. For instance, I mean, I'd hate to say Flipkart is our savior, but there is that option of putting books out on Flipkart and having colorful covers up there, and so that this organized retail via the online retail chains or is making a difference. And I am a tremendously positive and optimistic kind of a person. So I am looking at, I mean, every year you know, on the 1st of January, I declare that, you know, so I put up my vision board, already has something like 35 crores in sale for this year. And I'm not sure I'm going to achieve that 35 crores, but I just put it out there just to feel good, and I'm going to push myself to even deliver 3.5 lakhs out of that 35 crores, and I will be happy at the end of the year. So one of the interesting things was that the Nielsen Bookscan actually carries, I think, 4 or 5 titles in Hindi out of the top 250 titles which are sold in India. So so these kind of little indicators, I think, does make a difference, and you just feel that there is something that we are doing right, which can probably change Hindi publishing. Or am I out of time? I have 2 minutes left. So just quickly to run through the last slide. So I know the other thing that we continuously say is that language publishing, the price points is a sensitive issue, but I think in Hindi publishing, if you have a great book, people are willing to pay any price for it. And finally, I'll leave you with this to think about. The Indian population has actually doubled in about 34 years, which is from 500 million, we've grown to 1 billion, while the world average time to double its population would have been 454 years. And the average age of an Indian, which we all really feel excited about, is 26 years as compared to several European countries where the average age is about 40 years or more. And at a current literacy rate of 74%, it means that we have a potential 750 million readers in India, which is the entire population of Europe. So I think as a publisher, as an Indian language publisher, this is a very exciting time to be in publishing in India. And I would really look at other collaborators, other publishers coming to India to also consider the Indian language market. It's not all gloomy, and it's quite exciting. And I think I'll take leave now. I don't think there's any time for questions, so I'll step down, and maybe if there's something anybody wants to talk about, we can talk about it later. Lovely to be here. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Nita. So now we are proceeding to our matchmaking sessions. Shabnam handed out a little sheet of paper where I hope you all find your company names in. So please go back to conference room 1 and 2. If you're not in that list and you want to participate in that matchmaking, please come to me and we will find a solution for that and match you. Thank you.
Good morning. Let me, at the outset, congratulate and thank German Book House for organizing such a wonderful meeting of like-minded professionals at a place as beautiful as Jaipur. Since this is an informal roundtable meeting, I'll keep my talk short, very informal, and hopefully more thought-provoking and less provocative. From the Indian point of view, STM has mainly remained a textbook publishing activity with occasional reference books thrown in, and most of the activities were and are about import of books from the US and Europe. I'm again emphasizing on the STM publishing. Reprinting licensed editions is a serious publishing activity and business model here in India, and would and should continue as prolifically as is happening now. The advent of internet offered an opportunity for the Indian subcontinent of being a major player in the outsourcing industry. Today, almost all the major global publishers have their presence in India, and the debate has even started shifting off India as an outsourcing center to places like China and many other countries, and more recently, Philippines. Global and STM publishing is predominantly in the English language, and that has been the strength and the case for India to be a very serious service participant ever since the opportunity arose 3 decades back. Publishing and the way content is delivered to the end user has in the meantime revolutionarily transformed in the past decade, especially in the last 5 years, with the arrival of tablets, Apples, apps, and thousands of Android platforms, now even touchscreen computers. Today, the end user can choose the kind of content he or she wishes to use with the touch of their fingertips, and that is happening faster than we publishers can blink. Content is really becoming the king today, and the role and power of the distributor is being marginalized. Yesterday, I heard many voices defining the distribution scenario in India as sad, even pathetic, even after the entry of many large conglomerates. There is a question of course, payment, and really equally important, the bestsellers and preferred authors getting preferences at the cost of an opportunity at many of the counters where the book publishers expect to be exhibited. I have been in the publishing industry since 1978. In fact, so happy to see some of my colleagues or even seniors who started together at this STM convention. And starting in 1978, that makes me pretty old or young as how looks at it. And I am now 35 years old in the industry. And I guess I'm sufficiently experienced enough to have an opinion and a point of view. I'm always puzzled with publishers when they talk only about the printed books and its derivatives when content is discussed. I think as a publisher, we take ourselves too seriously and are rather prescriptive about what we believe are our domains and what our readers should get. We have to be careful not to be too inward-looking and open ourselves to new ideas and technologies that we are not familiar with, leave alone masters of. Today's digital world is not merely the transfer of formatted pages and layouts through the internet. Today's digital world is also about delivering content compatible to the devices that the end users have. Today's digital world is not about ebooks and e-content alone, but about digital content that can move, that can speak, that can almost blow you a kiss. It is this participative and interactive content that is asking for its place in publishing industry today, and we can either close our eyes and pretend that it is not happening, or alternatively be consumed or replaced by other content providers who see the new opportunity that has now arisen. The fear of technology, I frankly believe, is part of the reason for this reluctance, and I find it honestly a bit amusing. Technology has always been part of publishing and has coexisted peacefully with content development and delivery. Even in my heydays in print publishing, I had no idea about the printing machines, color printing technologies, and an array of backups that went into converting content into the final book format, which many of us saw only at the proof level or at the time of release. Production managers managed the printers, editors sweated on the content, marketing did their part, and publishers, the prima donna, waved the baton of the sound of music, publishing. I can assure you that it is the same thing in digital publishing, at least in STM publishing. Learn to think of others as content providers, printers as developers, and your colleagues as software and hardware techniques, or if that satisfies them, even software engineers, and have the patience and the wherewithal, and we are in business in this brave new world of digital publishing. In print publishing, we leave it to our authors, editors, and colleagues to run the individual functioning and departments independently, and that is the way it would work in digital publishing also. There is no need for us to be technologically that savvy to be running a digital publishing industry. Oh, I forgot. You also need investments, a lot of investments. I'm the one who firmly believe that both print and digital are inevitable parallel lines that will coexist and both have their own place in the scheme of things. As publishers, we have to learn to understand both and prepare ourselves to play both the tunes, as the audience would like to hear. Technology in India and technology from India is our strength as much as English language is. And in a borderless world of digital publishing, especially in STM, we have an opportunity to be major players, not merely as service partners, but also as content providers. With Focus Medicare, which is the digital arm of our parental company, Panther Publishers, we believe we have made a small beginning in this fantastic voyage, and I am optimistic that there will be many more of you with us in this interesting, pleasant, and perhaps profitable journey. Thank you. I was not aware that there is a PowerPoint presentation possibility. There was a communication gap because I was under the impression it is in the STM hall. So what I can do, if you can bear with us for another 2 or 3 minutes, is show you a little of the animation that I'm doing, and then on specifics when we go to the STM meeting, I can answer queries or participate in discussion.
Do you want to do that now or later?
Take 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes.
Okay, so we'll bear 2 minutes to be shown the. Would you like to say something?
And this is just to show you
the cell is a structural and functional unit of life, bounded by the living outer boundary called the cell membrane, plasma lemma, or plasma membrane. The cell contains a nucleus, which acts as the controlling center of the cellular factory. The protoplasm found between the plasma membrane and the nuclear membrane is called the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm contains many organelles, such as endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, centrioles, Golgi complex, mitochondria, microbodies,
That's it? Right, so thank you for this first part of the day. And I would now request all of you to go to level 1, to conference room 1, which is the STM roundtable, or conference room 2, which is the rights and licensing workshop. Thank you.
Full interactive and interesting sessions this morning. Now we start with the first keynote speech of the day, and we have the pleasure of having Malcolm Neal with us. Malcolm Neal is the Director of Content Acquisition and Publisher Relations for the APAC region by Kobo. So Malcolm, all over to you.
Well, hello everyone. You'll have to forgive me if it's a little distracting, but I do like to walk as I talk. It helps me think and remember things that I've written down, but I'll try hard not to refer to my notes. I think the first thing and the best thing for me to do and to help you understand our perspective is to tell you a little bit about Kobo itself. Kobo was born back in 2009. It was an idea born in Canada, based initially around sample chapters in sort of a collaboration with Indigo Books. We joined with Borders in the US, Borders in Asia, Pacific and Australia, and a Hong Kong financier to create the company Kobo, which was a wholly owned separate company, not part of any of those. From there, we've established offices around the world. We've opened in many, many countries. This slide is actually out of date, as all slides at Kobo are. We've now got more than 500 employees. And that is amazing when you consider when I joined the company back in 2010, we had around 120. There are now over 3 million titles in our catalogue. And again, every day that number changes. I get a notification every morning in my email box of the territories that I'm involved in and the global territories, and we're uploading thousands of copies a day, which over a year, you can imagine how much that is. Sales in 2011 had hit 250 million. I won't give you our current number because we don't release that publicly, but you can rely on the fact that that is increasing by hundreds of percents. And in January of 2012, things changed for us when we were acquired by Rakuten, the Japanese online giant. And that took us out of the realm of regular funding, venture capital funding rounds. And immediately our aggressive global expansion plan was initiated. And you'll see that in those 3 years, we've grown to have over 12 million users around the world. It's a phenomenal number. Those users have bought books in 190 countries. And I'm not sure because I haven't counted this number recently, but my understanding was that is more than the number of countries who are members of the United Nations. It is not more than the number of members of the Federation of International Football Associations, though, so we've still got a few to go there. We're acquiring content, by which I mean people like myself are actively involved in 39 different countries, and that's identifying the best opportunities for e-reading in the world and making sure that we have robust catalogues in each of those. We have books in 67 different languages at last count, and that is growing every single day as people upload titles in different languages. We, of course, have Hindi. More esoterically, we have Maori, which is the New Zealand national indigenous language. And importantly for our guest from yesterday, from Bloomsbury, we have Welsh. We have dedicated merchandising teams in 13 different countries, and by that I mean we have people who understand the reading in those countries and the reader in those countries, and the books that we present to you when you log in from each of those 13 countries are the best of those books, the books that we select as virtual booksellers and we would like you to look at. They're the topical books, they're the prize-winning books, they're the books that reflect local culture. And that is a very important component of the way in which we expand our business and will form part of our conversation with you when we launch here. We're not interested in a one-size-fits-all. We need to understand the market to make it work. At our current language count, we have sites in 8 different languages. They're obviously the major European languages. And language support is important because it involves discoverability, so that when you search for a book in your local language, it's easily discovered. When you select the language on our website, for example, that language, the searches that you do will be displayed first in that language. And again, we will be looking to do the same here in India. Partners are a key part and a key differential to the Kobo way of doing business. When we opened all our new territories, we look for retail partners for our devices and for content. And as you can see from that list of global partners, they're some of the biggest and most well-known brands in the world. So our partners are obviously very dear to us, but they're also someone who adds value to that relationship, and in doing so adds value to your relationship with us. So why local partners? And you'll forgive me if I do hold a piece of old-fashioned paper while I read this. For e-reading to become a mainstream activity, companies like mine, Amazon, Barnes & Noble and the like, we need to get our e-readers in the hands of readers. And by e-readers, I don't actually mean tablets, I mean the e-ink single-purpose device. Because what we're trying to do in that startup phase is read those people who are what we would call avid readers, or you might call heavy readers. The best way to reach those readers is to make our devices available and partner with people who are closest to them, which in most countries is booksellers. They're the people who are having daily conversations with readers about your books if you're a publisher. Conversion from tablets is still strong, and I know that there's a strong drive towards Android apps and the like, and our app is highly rated in the Google Store, as it is in the Apple Store. But the conversion from a tablet, and by conversion I mean the number of books that a reader buys, is dramatically higher when they buy a single-purpose device, and can be up to 8 to 12 times more purchases from those customers. And when you think about that on an average yearly scale, that's a large number of books that each one of those people is purchasing. Now also, in the physical book world, as you all probably know, women make up a greater percentage of readers than men. And that is a global stat. The e-reading stats are skewed even more. So while there is a tech startup phase in which a lot of smart and savvy young people get involved, there's a lot of smart and savvy women who are getting involved at the same time. And in our experience, that's up to a 70-30 split. So up to 70% of people in that startup phase who become involved in e-reading are women. And again, that's something to consider when you're developing your strategy. They're also very, very heavy readers. They're great at buying books. They buy a lot of books. They consume a lot of books. And that's not just, with all due deference to our friends from Random House, the 50 Shades of Grey style of single moment books. To be honest, there's a lot of romance and literature being read, and romance in particular has got to the point where it's the leading category in fiction, with every market that we're in showing a market share of more than 20%. Now that's a phenomenal number when you compare that number to the actual percentage of women reading romance in the physical book market. So again, that's an opportunity, and one for a digitally savvy publisher to publish digital-only lists, because that's the sort of thing that I'm seeing occurring in the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, where they have what I would term a developed ebook market, or a market where more than 10% of books sold are digital. So there's a number of reasons why we want to be with local partners, because they have those conversations with the reader, and we can use those conversations on our website and with our partner to sell to them. Another thing to consider, though, as I'm talking to you about your local market, and ebooks are global. So when you load your book onto an ebook service, whether it's ours or our competitors, you're making your book available to every market that you have the rights to make that into. And I should stress that, it's the rights you have the right to sell that book into. And we follow those rights because you supply them to us. We can only sell your books where you tell us to sell them. So if you don't supply us the rights to sell in the US, even if you have the right to do so, we will not do so until you tell us to do that. So that's very important. And building a strong base of avid readers who love ebooks is the key also to bringing ebooks into the mainstream. And I just want to reiterate that point, because in the startup phase, ebooks and e-reading still won't be mainstream. There'll still be a lot of education to be done of the reader. Now, these are the countries that we currently have merchandise stores in. As you can see, at the moment it's heavily skewed to those mainly English-speaking markets, or the other strong and popular European languages. Each market is very, very different, though. France, for example, has the highest price in the EU. The Netherlands, the strongest consumption of titles from outside their market. And Japan, again, a very, very different customer, a high-value, high-paced, high-churning customer. In India, we're going to rely on you to help us discover what sort of customer you will have as an e-reader. It's impossible to know, and experimentation is really the only way to do that. But one of the things that Kobo has done is that we are very reactive and fast-paced in the way in which we make our changes. So it won't take us long to find out what sort of readers Indian readers are or want to be. International sales are also key, remembering, as I suggested just a second ago, you're not just selling to your local market. English language sales into non-English territories is up 300% last year. Now, yes, the market is new, but that's a phenomenal growth, and in a market which we are all around the world struggling to find growth, here is one area where you can target and actively market to look for growth.